Welcome to Mechinations OverBoost, a podcast interview series featuring discussions with mecha game speedrunners about their interest in all things mecha. I'm your host, pmcTRILOGY. With me today is Panda, best known for being a Gundam speedrunner and doing all sorts of things, and especially being involved with sort of organizing Gundam speedrunning as a community. Panda, how are you?
I am fine. I just moved into another apartment, and I'm currently setting up all my stuff. So yeah, kind of relaxing now.
Truly mobile Panda right now.
That is true.
There's a little question I wanted to throw at you just as a starter to the interview. I've noticed a lot in the time that we've been interacting that I feel like you have been sort of playing around with exactly what your sort of brand name is that you show to the world. And I think that's also because you wear a few different hats in terms of being online, both being interested in doing speedruns as well as doing things like music. What do you feel like, you know, if I had to put a label on this podcast when I put it on the feed, what do you want your name to be? Is it PilotPanda? Is it Panda Burr? Like what do you feel is the correct synthesis right now for you?
I would say PilotPanda is totally fine. That's also where I'm going to release like all the mech stuff I'm doing on YouTube, and all my speedruns are going to be on that channel. So I would say like let's just say PilotPanda. For reference, Panda is just totally fine.
Excellent. Obviously. All right. Cool. Well, so let's. I always like to go back to the beginning, right? Because I think with this interview, my focus is not just asking you about the speedruns that you do currently or recently, but also sort of tracing the arc of how you got into doing speedruns, especially speedruns of this particular subject matter. And so I would ask you, where does your history with mecha start? Is it anime? Is it games, toys, collectibles?
That is actually a good question. So I never was like huge into the whole mecha thing when I was younger. The thing is, I'm from Germany, and we didn't have much Gundam, for example, over here. We did get dubs for the anime, but they were only released on VHS, which were kind of rare to get as well. So the first contact I had with mechs, I would say, or like let's say robots. I would say it was Final Fantasy VII. That was the first time I saw like, you know, giant robots, not being controlled by humans. That is, but that's what got me hooked. And then later on, there was a series, an anime series on television that aired here, which was Candidate for Goddess. That's where I really got hooked into the whole mech thing, honestly.
What's the name of that series again?
Candidate for Goddess.
Oh, I don't think I'm familiar with that at all.
It's like a 6-episode series, and they cut it off like not even halfway into the plot, as far as I'm aware. And yeah, they just aired those 6 episodes on late night TV, I think in 2000 or 2001 or something like that. And that's where I like first got in touch with mechs in general, I would say. And then obviously, I think a year later or so, Son of the Enders came out, and that's actually my first mech game I've ever played. And ever since then,
did you get it because you wanted the mechs, or did you get it because you wanted the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo? Real question here.
I actually am not a fan of Metal Gear Solid. I have not played, not even the first game. I think I started it when I was younger, and I was like not figuring out what to do. I couldn't even get into the first elevator, so I was like, okay, I don't want to touch this game.
Yeah, not for me. Yeah. I wanted to ask you mentioned earlier that like some of the first times you had run into big robot stuff were dubs on like VHS cassette. Now, were those dubs the English dubs traveling through the market, or were those German dubs?
Those were actually German dubs.
There were German dubs, okay.
So we had a lot of stuff translated. I mean, we had the usual stuff that was running on TV, like, you know, Pokemon and all that shenanigans. But we have like some pretty decent dub studios here in Germany, and like for example, Gundam Wing was released as German dub on VHS, but never aired on TV. So yeah.
So that makes a big difference. Yeah, that's something that we talk about a lot on the the mainline Mechinations podcast, is the extent to which access shaped taste. Even among me and my co-hosts, I was someone who really only consumed anime through broadcast television. So I was pretty much only watching things that would come on the Cartoon Network Toonami block, your Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z, that sort of thing. Whereas I think some of my, the other co-hosts had access to VHS cassettes and things, and so they would run into things. It was like Slayer and stuff like that. Other anime that would have been available in that market at that time in the late '90s on the VHS cassette market. So since then, since you first got into watching some of this anime. Now, over the years, have you mostly watched then broadcast, TV anime, or did you get into building a collection, either through DVDs or files from the internet, or what have you watched? What's your big favors?
I would say it was a combination between DVDs and obviously the internet, because it was just at that time when we all got DSL connections, it was just that available to us, especially the stuff from Japan nobody ever heard of. And I actually didn't care much about mech anime in specific for a long time. I actually just watched, everything that came to my mind, but I never ever thought about, Gundam or any other mech series after I watched Candidate for Goddess. So, it was basically just me stumbling across a copy of Gundam Seed Wrangle vs. Seft 2 for the PlayStation 2. And I didn't know what it was, and I had actually no clue what Gundam was at that point, and I just got the game for a few dollars at a local shop. So I was testing it out because, I had a chipped PS2, so I could play imports, and I played it with a couple of my friends, and I was super fascinated. The designs were absolutely great. And that's when I actually looked up, okay, what is Gundam? And then I realized, wow, this is a big genre. This is a big franchise. And then I watched Gundam Seed, and I got hooked on that ever since.
So Gundam Seed was your first Gundam show that you watched?
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. When would that have been about? What?
That must have been around 2007, 2008, around that time. So I was still a teenager at that point. But we also had a German dub for that, but nobody really knew about that. I think there are DVDs out there, but don't quote me on that. It also never aired, so I was kind of surprised that we had the German translation for us, but nobody really knew about it. And then I watched it, and I also watched the first series, and tried to get into more Gundam ever since.
All right, this is a question that I've always wanted to ask someone who is also able to speak other languages. As someone who has, I guess at this point, sort of multiple options, I feel like it's common in North American anime fandom to get into this mean-spirited subs versus dubs discourse. What is your preferred way? If you have a choice, and obviously assuming that not one of them is objectively terrible, what is your preferred way to watch an anime series? Is it with the original JP voices, English subs? What do you prefer?
I would say it's the version I've experienced first. So when I watch the German dub first, I will go ahead and rewatch that again. For example, I tried to watch Gundam Seed in Japanese, and it was fine, but I still didn't enjoy it as much as the original dub. That is with all anime though. Everything I watch in German or in English, for example, I kind of prefer that way because that's the way I know it, and that's the way I recognize the voices and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that one because I for me, I think especially having mostly watched broadcast shows, I would often become familiar with the English dubs first, because those would be the ones that would typically get broadcast. And then as I got more into it, I would, for example, watch Hunter x Hunter or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood subbed because they were coming out before they got dubbed. And then I would find out, oh, well, I kind of prefer those versions now. So I think I'm right there with you. I think that's probably my favorite take on it. So overall, let's do some hot takes. Your favorite mecha anime series?
I would say Gundam Seed.
Gundam
obviously.
Seed. You know there are a lot of Seed haters out there. Do you have anything to say to the Seed haters?
To the Seed haters, I would say it's fine. If it wasn't the first Gundam I have ever watched, I would probably agree with that. Every time I go back to it and watch it, it's a little bit, cringy, as the kids would say. But I don't know. I like it a lot. I would say the very first Gundam is right after that. Besides that, I am actually not sure.
Have you watched Gundam Wing? Because I think the way that you're talking about Seed sounds very familiar to me, to how a lot of my peers who got that first exposure through Gundam Wing think about Gundam Wing as a series that they love because it was their first exposure. Do you feel like you would identify with that? You say, well, you're not really into Wing, but you can understand how other people came to it first.
I would say it's kind of the same thing, because it's their first touch on Gundam in general, or maybe mech in general. But I personally don't really like Gundam Wing that much. I watched it and I was like, okay, that's fine.
I hear you.
But it's also like, if you haven't experienced it as a kid, I would say you don't like it that much. It's also hard, like the same thing with the first Gundam. It's kind of hard to watch nowadays, because it's really outdated, let's be real.
I think you're right, that like more so than maybe other TV shows, or maybe this is just more apparent to me because I think we're somewhat similar in age, whereas clearly Mobile Suit Gundam, that's 1979. That's well older than both of us. I think we can easily perceive the age of that. But I think also, too, I would mention, I think both of us share some musical enjoyment of Japanese music of that era. And every time I watch Mobile Suit Gundam, I can't help but delight in the music.
That is totally true. I think it's like it gets easier to watch the more you enjoy the plot. It starts out, a little bit janky, but like especially the animations, they're not particularly good. But like the whole music, the plots. I watch it in English and Japanese as well, and I find both versions pretty enjoying for their own reasons.
Sure,
obviously.
Sure. All right, so I want to move over. Now, you already mentioned one game. So I was really impressed. One of the things I like to do when I interview people for the series is go and I look at their speedrun.com profile, and I want to like, we don't have to dwell on each of them individually, but I listed out what I think are all of the mech games that you've done at least one run for, and there's a lot of games here. Now, a lot of them, of course, are Gundam games. There's a few interesting ones. I don't know if you have a comment on or not, but the oldest one I found was Mad Stalker Full Metal Force.
Yeah, that's true. That's I don't know how I stumbled across it. I was probably like looking for games online and saw footage of that, and I was like, yeah, that looks decent. Looks kind of arcadey, I would say. It's really just a beat 'em up, I would say.
Right? Yeah. No, that's what it looked like to me when I checked out the footage. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Some of these mech games, I think, especially ones that maybe people are less familiar with, are often just pulling from very or in the mold of very established genres. Like I think another one was Astabreed, which looks very much like a shmup.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty much. It's a very easy one, though. But it's also a very enjoyable game. It's a short one, So I did like one or two runs of that just for the sake of doing runs.
So one other short one before we get into some of the Gundam stuff and another game that I want to discuss more. One series that I can't help but watch because I love janky looking, very huge chunky polygon games. I noticed that you had also done at least a few runs for Zero Divide 2: The Secret Wish. What a great subtitle. Do you have any comment about that?
Yeah, it's actually a better fighting game than I thought it would be. A lot of people in the Speedfist Discord, which is a Discord for speedruns of fighting games, they told me about the game and were like, hey, maybe that's something for you. And I looked at footage of it and I was like, yeah, okay, I dig the PS1 aesthetics, but it looks kind of janky. Kind of like the Total
yeah,
one.
Yeah, definitely.
But it actually plays really well, and it's pretty enjoyable to play. It's very responsive. When you see the footage of that, it looks kind of like the Tekken 1 kind of gameplay, with the huge jumps, with the huge air, and very unresponsive. But it's really playing pretty well. And that's why I got into it, and I did runs before they decided to change emulator and console runs. So I grinded for world record, and then they changed, the categories to be split up.
Now, okay, so earlier you mentioned running into a copy of Sea Destiny Rangu versus ZAF 2 Plus. You said it was a ZAF 2 Plus was the one that you had picked up?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, was that actually your first Gundam speedrun then, or did it end up being a different game?
That was one of my earlier speedruns, but it was not my very first one. The very first very first game I ever speedran was actually Gundam Seed for the Gundam Seed Battle Assault, for the Game Boy Advance. 2D fighter, that is, for the Game Boy Advance. One of the best, I would say.
Yeah, that's right. GBA fighter. That's interesting to me. With those GBA fighters, maybe this is probably something I could have researched, but would there have been an easy way to do multiplayer head-to-head fighting with that, or was it really just a single player game?
You could also do multiplayer. Right now, I'm actually thinking of solutions for competitive GBA play. It's obviously easier if you have like two people side by side, because like everyone can get a screen and you just can link two emulators together. But you can also do the same thing, I think, with Parsec, and let just the other player who's joining you on your PC online, you can let them play on one emulator and you play on the other one. It is possible, but it's I think Game Boy Advance is like really not good for net play, because the link cable wasn't designed for that kind of shenanigans. I would say.
Well, let's get into Gundam Seed Battle Assault then. So before I interview someone, I usually ask for a few games to focus on, for our discussion. And Gundam Seed Battle Assault was one of them, and I watched your what I believe is the current record run video, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I wanted to ask, with a game like that, especially a GBA game, how are you physically playing the game, and what kind of controller are you using?
I started out using an Xbox 360 controller, and then I changed to a PS1 controller. That's what I'm currently using, also for like other games, because I play a lot of PS1 games, especially like rare Japanese games that like nobody really ever heard of in the West or in Europe in general. And yeah, I'm kind of using that for fighting games. I try to get back into using a keyboard. I kind of really like the quarter circle motions. They are a little bit more fluently if I do it on keyboard.
Yeah, it's almost like, I guess, like doing it on like a hitbox or something when you do it on keyboard, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm also getting into, especially for like those fighting games like Battle Assaults and the PS1 Battle Assaults, for example.
Now, with Battle Assault, the run that I saw, you were using Kiryu as the player character. Now, is that considered the fastest character then, or is that just your preference?
I was using Esram Zala before.
Okay.
And the thing is with Kira Yamato and the Freedom Gundam is that it has a freeway combo, which also has a knockdown effect, and you can pretty much freeway combo into a super, and it takes away about like half of the life bar, which is insanely good damage. And if you hit all the 3 or 4 way combos, because you also have range attacks, and if the opponent is stunned and in air, you can also or have a little window to use the range attack, which makes it a 4-way combo and deals massive damage. And that's not what I found, but the second player of the game, which is G Cops, I think is its name, and he was like my first contester for the world record, and he found out those strats, so I kind of adapted from there.
No, yeah, I noticed when I was watching that was really your bread and butter. What's the God, I maybe I missed this when you're explaining. What's in some of the later stages you would do something as like an opener. What was that? What were you doing? It was like you're cracking a crystal or something.
Oh yeah, that is Seed Awakening mode. If you have never watched Seed, it's pretty much like a trance effect. If you ever have played Final Fantasy IX, for example, it's pretty much like that. So you get like furious and suddenly have like superpowers, or like are stronger, more focused.
So like an X Factor in Marvel vs. Capcom or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. So
okay.
It's like you can activate it right away, and your attacks do more damage, but you also take more damage, and your phase shift armor, which is also your ammo or ammunition, also depletes a lot faster. So that's, it has downsides and it has obviously upsides, and you need to do that not only because you deal more damage, but also to use your super. So that's why I'm doing it mostly right away. Like when the fight starts, I go into Seed Awakening mode and try to do the combo into the super. Yeah, true.
Right. So you already talked a little bit about, other runners, how the history of the run came together. Are you happy with where the run is right now? I mean, do you have any future goals for that category? Or for the game? Maybe other categories?
For this game, I did any percent and I did 100%. I don't want to go back to 100% because fighting game 100% is not really good. It's basically the same thing all over again with no breaks, just with different characters.
I was about to ask, what is 100% of fighting? I mean, maybe that's because I feel like people may be less familiar with fighting game speedruns, and so certainly is 100% just the idea would be to do all the characters?
Yeah, you have to unlock all the characters and have to complete the stage. So you have this little icon on the character select screen in the story mode that says completed. And if you have played with every character through every stage, so it's pretty much like all Gundam's story mode kind of thing. That's 100% in this game. And my run was like 5 hours 30 minutes. I think world record is like 4 hours 45 or something like that. Okay. And it's for me, it's a little bit too long. That's especially because it's a fighting game. You have no downtime. You just have to sit there and do 12 fights all over again. And it's kind of frustrating, especially if you lose time. You lose like a minute or so. Your run is most likely dead.
Right. Yeah, no, that could definitely a marathon session like that with that sort of gameplay can definitely wear on you. Now, have there been other runners? You've already described that you had a sort of chief competitor for any percent. Or actually, let me ask that. I wrote this down in my notes, but I forgot to ask. What are the differences in New Game Plus? Because I think I'd noticed that it was New Game Plus was the category you had shared with me.
Oh yeah, New Game Plus is used because you can use any available Gundam. New Game would be only the Gundams you have available from the beginning, which are 8, and I think there are a total of 12 in this game. I'm not sure, like right off my head, I don't know. And that's Freedom is one of the New Game Plus runners, and I mean it makes sense. Like if you want to do any percent, let the people choose the Gundam they prefer, which is the fastest, which is, in this case is Freedom.
No, that makes sense. That's definitely understandable. But anyway, so I forget if you answered the question about are there other runners besides you and your chief competitor?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It didn't have anyone running this game besides me until that one guy showed up. I think G Cops. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's someone from Taiwan.
Okay.
And he came like 6 months after my first runs. He came in, and I was just doing runs for myself, pretty much, and to improve myself. And then he got the record down by a lot. I think the record at this point where I already left the game and went to other games was like 15:26 or something. And then I think 1 year ago on a cold winter night, I came back and grinded it out for like 2 or 3 weeks until I got the world record down to 14 minutes something. And I left off since then. I'm trying to focus on other games right now. And if nobody comes in and tries to challenge it, I would say I'm going to leave it like that.
That sounds good. So earlier you mentioned that you were using a PS1 controller because you were playing some obscure games from Japan that nobody had ever heard of, and perhaps one of those is Love and Destroy, which is another game that you had brought to my attention. A really neat game, just sort of visually. Can you talk about how you discovered the game and what made you decide to run it?
I was actually looking for mech games online, like rare mech games, and there are a lot of weird games that were Japanese only and not even really popular. So I was scrolling through this list, and I think Love and Destroy popped off, and I watched a video about it. And at first, I didn't even understand what was going on. I didn't even know what was the mech part about it, because it has like these intermission screens where you have like your favorite coordinator, which are like 3 anime waifus, and it just looked interesting. And then I tried to play the game. I watched like the cutscenes, and it turns out that those 3 coordinators are 3 different mechs in that sense, and they are the story is kind of weird. It's like the girls are going to transform into the mech, so they're like how do you say, the AI of the mech,
right? Yeah, it's like if you played Zone of the Enders, except there were 3 different mechs and there were 3 different Adas,
yeah, that's true. Something like that. And I played the game, and I must say it's super short. It's only like 7 or 8 stages long, and but it controls really well. I think it is one of the earlier titles that used the dual stick controller to its full potential, because you have options to like strafe and stuff like that with the shoulder buttons, but you also have the options to use the right stick to look around and move around and like move your crosshair. And that was really interesting, and you rarely find those like PS1 games that use these kind of controls. So that was really good, and that really impressed me. And there was another run on the leaderboard, so I decided to speedrun it and found my own strats. I found out that you don't have to complete all of the stages. You can. They are called practice stages, pretty much. So the fastest way actually to beat them is to die. And you only really have to beat the 2 end bosses and the very first stage, and that's about it. The other stages you can pretty much lose. And then it depends on RNG and how you position yourself, so you can complete the stage as fast as possible.
Yeah, I noticed when I was looking up information on the run, it seemed like your routing was really, for those middle stages, was a question of, is it faster to kill or be killed?
Yeah, that's true. And the problem really is that killing is a little bit slower for the most part, because like all those 3 mechs you can choose are super different. One is more like melee focused. The one I'm using is pretty much a range type, but also has lockdown missiles. They don't do that much damage, but you're pretty much sure to hit the enemy all the time, which is really good because the camera can get a little bit janky at points. And there's a third one I don't really know when he's doing, but nobody uses it, so I'm not sure. But yeah, it's pretty much RNG. You could go for the kill with the other mech, but yeah, I think the other runner that was first there, we both agreed that it's just faster to die and beat the stage like that.
So now, was that other runner not using intentional deaths before you rolled in?
No, he was actually playing the game intentionally.
Okay.
And I did that for my first run as well, and then the game's kind of hard to play it casually for the first time. It's really not easy, especially the stages where you die. You can just die by playing it casually and playing really bad, don't know what to do and don't know what to hit.
Sure.
And I died during one of my runs, but I decided to just keep going, and then I realized, oh wait, I don't have to fight that enemy again, and then I tested it out for every stage. That's how I pretty much came across. Because I think the other runner, he did reset after he died once, and then started the new run, and that was his PB first. And I think he didn't realize that it just skips the stage. I found that out, and I was like, okay. I was telling him the strats, and then we were like going back and forth a little bit, and now he has the world record. Like, he's 1 minute ahead or so of me, and I was like, okay, I'll leave it like that for now. Maybe I will come back.
So do you think right now you're not too motivated to get back to that right now, just because it sounds like to me watching the run, the most frustrating thing would be whenever you do those intentional death strats and there isn't like an easy way to immediately suicide, the frustration of trying to get an enemy to attack you. I know, like, for example, in Mobile Suit Gundam Journey to Jaburo, there's the one stage where you want to get to just below 50% health, and you have to rely on some DOMs to hit you to get there, and that can be the most frustrating thing in the world, because sometimes the AI in that game just, wanders off into a forest and gets lost.
Yeah, it's a combination of resetting too much because of RNG. I mean, I'm used to it. I run a lot of fighting games. I'm used to a lot of RNG. But it's also the last two fights are pretty hard. So once you get past the point where you can say, okay, I'm on PB pace right now, you have like two ridiculously hard fights in front of you with enemies with a lot of health. Like the boss enemies have a shit ton of health, and you can die easily. I think you can die in like 4 hits or something like that. And since the camera is a little bit janky, I think the very last opponent just starts teleporting all around. So you pretty much have to move your camera at all time and then try to lock on the enemy, and if you don't jump in the right way, you get hit, and that happens very easily. I had many runs on PB pace that just died because of that. And I think it's those both factors, that it's a pretty hard game in general, and it's so RNG heavy in the early stages. That kind of keeps me away from it. If it's all RNG, I can accept it a little bit better, but if it's like RNG and then RNG and really hard, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm done with it. I've done my deeds. For the game.
That's the thing. I feel like if you've moved the state of the game forward, like, that's the real victory. It always is being able to really contribute towards pushing the time for a game down. Well, in that case, let's talk about the game that is one of your current projects, which is Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Never Ending Tomorrow for the PS2. Now, I think the category that you had pointed out to me was the Athranzala story mode run, right?
So I started playing this game when I was I think like 5 years ago. I was looking into speedrunning games, and I was looking into playing more Gundam games. I'm kind of a collector when it comes to that, at least for PS2 and PS1 games. Everything I can get my hands on, I want to. And I bought this game, from a local German shop, and I got like a couple of other games with that. I think like 15 Gundam games overall, like for the PS2, for the Game Boy Advance. I think I have one original Game Boy game which I haven't touched yet. And when I received that copy, I was like so happy, and then I looked into the box of it, and it was a different game in it, and they didn't have the original copy, so I couldn't play the game. Then I decided, okay, I can try to emulate it, and it turns out this game runs really, really bad on the emulator. I figured it out recently that it's not the emulator's fault, it's just that the game is incredibly laggy on the PS2, so... Yeah, I started playing it on emulator then, and even with the slowdown, I was trying to figure out, the stats, the strats. Also, it's in the speedrun we are allowing something called New Game Plus partners. So the reason behind that is you always have a partner that assists you in the stage with like special abilities. You have 5 special abilities that can boost your damage. It can do direct damage to the opponent. It can make you faster. And they will always level up after the stage. So to avoid that and make that faster, you can pretty much set up before you start a new game run. You still have to watch like cutscenes. You still have to, or like you skipping cutscenes in that thing. You still have to play the whole stage. You still go through the whole process of the new game. You just can use those leveled up characters and use all their abilities. And that's what actually makes that run super fun and super fast. I grinded it down from like 35 minutes to 26 currently. And I'm trying to improve that as well. There are a lot of interesting strats, no glitches in particular. But like stupid stuff. For example, if you hit an enemy with your sword and the enemy explodes, it lags a lot. It happens to be like that if you pause the game during that animation and then unpause, it just runs normally. I don't know why that is.
Oh, so you have lag reduction strats in effect, right?
Yeah, a lot of lag reduction strats, especially like looking down where no enemies or no objects are. So if you're in space, you just try to move the camera down and still moving forward. So it's kind of awkward for the hand sometimes because you want to boost, you want to move your camera with the right stick, and you want to move forward with the left stick, and you kind of have to move your hand in a strange way. But it actually saves, I don't know, like 2 minutes or so since I've done that. It's pretty incredible. So a lot of the strategies are like perfect movement and camera movement, especially to reduce those laggy moments in the game.
Man, that's so. Yeah, watching, I had noticed that it seemed like the support boosts were playing a very important role. Though it's interesting to hear, of course, that I guess they're even more powerful because of the New Game Plus. Did you want to say anything? I mean, so is the other run? I noticed you've also done runs with the other character, Kira Yamato. Are those runs sort of the same thing, but maybe there's just like more missions, or just it's a longer run?
Yeah, Kira Yamato is just a longer run in general. It has more missions. Also, it kind of stays true to the anime. So like every part of the first anime, not Destiny in that sense, but the first Gundam Seed, it replays like all the famous moments, and it also recreates things that happen in the anime. For example, the first stage is super slow because in the anime he tries to configure the Gundam system. And that is recreated in the game by you are not really able to move precisely, and you have to wait 35 seconds until you can really move normally. So you're already wasting like a lot of time.
Yeah. And
also the stages are filled with more enemies. They are a lot longer than the Esranzala stages. And that's why I personally prefer Esranzala.
Sure.
But I'm currently routing Kira Yamato, and if I have done that, I will do all missions as well, because there's like a mission mode that you unlock when you play through both characters. and those are like, I think, 26 extra missions from like all kinds of side characters in the Seed universe, from Destiny, from I don't know, Astray, for example. They took everything in and put them into side missions, and I think all missions is like the best way to do like a long run. You could do 100%, but 100% requires you grinding characters in this game, like the support characters.
Yeah.
And it's super, super boring. You basically repeat one stage, which is like 15 seconds maximum. You repeat that all over again for, I don't know, 6 hours maybe. And it's absolutely boring. It's
probably
not a run
promising.
that you would enjoy to watch even. And that's why I said, okay, yeah, all missions sounds cool. You always have like interesting missions and interesting strategies. I would say that's moving forward. That's my longest category I will do for this game.
So when it comes to, I noticed right now you're, I think, the only runner with runs on the leaderboard. Have you collaborated? Have you had certain resources that you use to discover things about the game, or have you collaborated with any other people doing routing or anything?
Not at all. I have looked up game FAQs to get like the basic information, and then I try to figure out if the information is actually correct, if you can actually do something that speeds up the whole process. For example, the last stage on Asranzala, like the FAQ said something, you have to kill this and that and this and that. Turns out that is not true. You can basically just go to where the ending point is, because in some missions you have like a point where you have to stand. And if you are lucky, you just can stand on that point and move your camera in the correct way, so it reduces as much lag as possible, and then it automatically wins the stage for you. So that's a good way. When you're on the last stage, you're pretty much sure to PB if you're on pace. That's pretty funny. But the FAQ said a lot of different things that weren't particularly true. So I sat down, played each stage a lot of times with a lot of different support characters, and tried to figure out, okay, what kind of support boosts, like do I use boost in range attack because I have a lot of enemies to kill, and it's I can use the multi-lock on and shoot them down, or do I have to use my special attacks? You have like the super attacks that you can use, and maybe it's better on this stage to like boost the special attack. So I played around with that, and I came up with a good solution that is probably the fastest. Maybe somebody comes across and will change that in the future. I think for Asranzala I'm done. Moving on to Kira Yamato and doing the same thing as well, like playing through each stage and do that 1,000 times until I'm satisfied with the result.
Yeah, I mean, that's often, I think, the most important work in a speedrun. I think just because of how visible it is, a lot of times people look to, doing lots of attempts as sort of the visible face of speedrunning. But really, the importance of routing can't be understated, especially in games that aren't, all-time most popular games, because your all-time most popular games, I could probably go online and ask a very specific question about a Final Fantasy game and immediately get a good answer. But when it comes to games that aren't quite as thoroughly researched, doing that work is some of the most important work you can do for the game. Maybe even more important than running it. Yeah,
I would say it's also a fun part to figure out like the best way to beat the game. Not even for speedrunning, but also like helping other people that want to try the game, just to say, okay, hey, maybe use this and that. That's a good way to approach the fight. Or maybe somebody only has a Japanese copy, doesn't understand what to do. You can help them out with those guides as well. And it was a lot of fun, like testing out a lot of stuff, a lot of strategies in the game. Also, like the whole lag reduction thing. Especially because I was wondering why Emulator has so many slowdowns and how, because my PC is fairly decent, right? It should run fine. But as it turns out, the PS2 has the same lag on the same moments, and it's just researching. Yeah, if you want to do the work, it's always good, because maybe gets new runners.
Right. No, absolutely.
Because if you have to be the one that has to do the research, maybe you're not that motivated to get into like speedrunning the game or playing the game even casually.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a different sort of beast to pick up a game that's not been routed and run it than it is to start by copying someone else's run and then iterating from there.
Yes, exactly.
So we're gonna start winding down here, but I got some very silly fun mech questions for you. You got a favorite mech?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say it's from Son of the Enders 2, Anubis. It's probably my favorite mech.
That's a strong answer. Anubis is very, very good. On the flip side of that, I do have to ask, do you have a worst or least favorite mech?
Ooh. Oh, that's also hard. Let me actually think about that. I would say it's the Zaku worker type.
The first one,
if you have watched Orin, it's the yellow one.
Okay.
As working unit, I would say that's my least favorite.
Okay.
Because it's like a little bit stupid to have something like that. But it's just my opinion.
Now, because of how many different Gundam games you've played, I am legally obligated to ask for your best and worst Gundam games that you've played.
Ooh, best Gundam game. I would say Battle Assault 2 for the PS1.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to fighting games, overall, I'd say Never Ending Tomorrow is really good, but not for everyone.
Sure.
1 Year War. If you like the first anime, I would say 1 Year War is the game. It's fairly long. It has almost all the scenes. It's kind of like Journey to Jabro, only way longer. Also has like some first person scenes. I would say that's probably the best I've played from a casual perspective.
And now what about worst? Is it what I think it's going to be?
I'm not sure. I would say I want to say the PC one.
What, the War for Earth?
Yeah, the War for Earth, but it's such a good meme
it's a very good
I can't
meme.
say it's a bad game.
Yeah. If people aren't familiar, Mobile Suit Gundam: The War for Earth is a FMV game that was made in the 90s by Presto Studios, who also made the Journeyman Project series, and it is a English-made FMV game before they actually started localizing Gundam stuff. So all of the pronunciations are very unusual because they're not, instead of saying Zaku, they say Zach, and they say Jean instead of Xian. So it's kind of a funny artifact.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's so great. That's kind of meme worthy. So I don't want to say it's a bad game. It's a game. Not sure like that. But I would say New Gundam Breaker is the worst in my opinion.
So this is a favorite question of mine to ask because I'm always obsessed with technical words. Do you have a favorite term or name for a type of mech? So I'm talking about like Wanzer, mobile suit, vertical tank, battle mech. Do you have a favorite term for a mech from any particular series or show?
What the hell? I didn't think about that. There are many good ones. Ooh, that's such a hard thing to decide. I would say I would probably say what's the one what's the name of the ones in Son of the Enders?
Orbital frames.
Orbital frames. Yeah, I would say from the sound of it, it sounds really good.
No, they're pretty good.
besides that, yeah, I would say Mobile Suit, or not Mobile Suit, but Gundam in general. You know, the nerds out there probably they know the difference between mobile suits, mobile armors, Gundams. Sure. But I would say like the term Gundam is really cool, and as well as orbital frame. So I guess it's a tie on that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So one of the things I like to do to give a little continuity to the interview series is to both share a question from my previous guest as well as ask for a question to pass on. And so last OverBoost, I interviewed Pythonicus, who relayed this question, which is, who is your favorite mechanical designer?
Wow, that is a question I cannot even answer. I have to admit, I'm loving the designs of a lot of stuff, but I don't know the person behind it, unfortunately. I haven't even looked it up for Gundam. I would say...
well, if you want to pick maybe a general design then. So not knowing who the designer is, maybe you want to pick a particular series that has favorite designs.
I would say I love Tachikomas of Ghost in the Shell. I know you told me also the name about this guy. He also was doing stuff for Pet Labor, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it was that designer. Let me forget. Was it Shoji Kawamori? I honestly,
like, I can really say.
Oh, here we go. I think it's Yutaka Izubuchi. He was the mecha designer for Pet Labor. Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the one for Ghost in the Shell was really good. I love the Tachikoma design a lot, and also the general design of the series. But yeah, that was also like one of the animes that influenced me a lot with the rounder designs, especially of the mechs. I think Pet Labor has also those kind of roundish mechs, and most like Western mechs, for example, are like a little bit bulky. The Gundams look a lot more humanoid, I would say.
Sure, yeah, no, definitely. I think the Western, my buddy Ignis always calls them stompy mechs, the Western ones.
yeah, that's a good name for it.
All right, so in that case, then I do have to get from you a mecha-related question that I can ambush my next guest with.
A mecha-related question. Okay, let's think about something. No, I'm sweating. I don't even have
putting you under the spotlight here.
Yeah. Okay. Can it be anything?
Yeah, anything really. I mean, it's as wide as you want or specific as you want. I mean.
Okay. I would say, have you tried Afraid Gear Another, which is also a PS1 game, a rare one, which I played recently a lot. Just ask him that.
Okay, no, I will. I will 100% do that. All right, and cool. So at this point, we're wrapping things up. We're looking towards the future. You've already mentioned, I think, some of your future plans, especially in terms of speedrunning Seed Never Ending Tomorrow and working on the Kira category. Are there any either speedrun specific or gaming in general, future things that you're really looking forward to right now?
Ooh, I would say I'm kind of excited for the new, or like the new in quotations, release for the PS4. Which is Gundam X versus
it's like, is it like Maxi Boost or something like that? Or
Maxi Boost.
Yeah,
something. God
bless Bamco, but I can never keep those fighting game names straight.
Me neither. Especially if you have like a lot of extreme versus kind of names there, and then the newest version has like some title added to it, and it always confuses me. But it was Maxi Boost, and I'm kind of excited for that. I think that's probably a reason for me to finally get a PS4. I'm still stuck with my PS2 here. that's actually my newest console, I think.
Well, let's hope maybe the announcement of the next generation will help drive the price down, right?
Yeah, I mean that would be great. Or we just get a PC release, Banco, make it happen.
Let's hope.
Yeah. That's because I kind of want to get into like competitive Gundam outside of speedrunning. That's why I'm kind of looking forward to that.
No, definitely. Yeah, I imagine at this point, any release like that, especially worldwide release, good or at least accessible net play is a must for that kind of game.
Yeah, true.
So I think we're just about done. I want to give you an opportunity to sort of plug your socials and any other projects too that you want to let the people know about.
All right, yeah, you can find me on my TV panda.ra. That's where I'm mostly streaming. I do all kinds of stuff. Right now, I'm kind of on a hiatus until I have everything settled down personally, with new job and moving to the new apartment. But I think I'll be back in a week or so, and then I will focus on Gundam speedruns in general. Like Never Ending Tomorrow and Battle Assault 2. I would say you can look up PilotPanda on YouTube. You will find my channel there. I'm also planning to do a new video about how to make Gundam more competitive again. And that's about it. I mean, I do have Twitter and everything like that. If you want, you can look that up. You can find PilotPanda out there as well.
Yeah, you should be able to look in the description of this episode, and all of these will be linked below.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is right. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this lovely discussion, and wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors, especially in this year of our Lord 2020. And we are gonna boost out of here.